Hello from the Travel Tracker. Today's tip is for transportation admin who are using the Elite version of the Travel Tracker. We're going to look at the Driver tab and the Driver Information section in the Driver tab to be specific. When you go to your Driver tab in the Travel Tracker, you may already be using the bidding feature perhaps, but have you seen the Driver Information section here? This is a very useful section of the menu options. Let's just talk a little bit about these options. The first option under Driver Information is the Driver Inquiry. The Driver Inquiry is similar to your trip and assignment inquiries. You can see you have multiple filters that you can use to drill down and look at just your drivers. So for example, you can find a driver by name. So if you're looking for a particular driver and maybe you want to know a phone number or some information about that driver, you can just find that driver's name, pull up that information, and then you can click on the driver's information, the driver's summary, and pull up the table for that particular driver from the driver table. So that's a quick and easy way to find a driver rather than opening the actual driver table under your Setup Tables tab. Notice you also have a print button. It opens in a new tab, so when you have looked at the information or found the information you're looking for, you can exit that information. You can also find an email address. So maybe you have email address and you don't know who it belongs to. So when you find an email address, you can look down and see the driver that it belongs to. Again, you can click to open it. If you want to make any changes in the table, you can do that from here. So let's say, for example, this driver's assigned bus has changed. So you can change their bus number, scroll down, and submit, and make the change to that driver. Close the tab. You can sort looking at only drivers that are active or perhaps just drivers that are inactive. You can filter by zone if you utilize that part of the Travel Tracker. You can sort by driver designation if you use that. You can sort by full-time or part-time if you use that. There is a search feature, so if you wanted to search for a name, search for a part of a name, search for anything that could be in the table, you can do a search. And then you can sort your list. It comes sorted alphabetically by name by default. You can also sort by zone, by seniority, or hire date. Sorting by seniority lists the drivers from the least to the greatest seniority in order. By hire date is opposite. It'll give your hire date that's the farthest out, the earliest date. So then you end up getting the seniority by the most senior driver on top. So notice here that you have a print button and a print one driver per page button. The print button is basically going to print your screen. So if you click the print button, it is going to just give you a print screen of your view. The print one driver per page is really helpful. It's going to actually print the table for you. So let's say, for example, you only wanted to print the information about your full-time drivers. So you can pull up those drivers, and then if you click print one driver per page, notice it's going to give you the full driver table information of each driver. So that may be very helpful as well. Now the driver expiration dates and the driver events options here, we're going to talk about those in just a few minutes, but I did want to mention your driver table is here that you can access if you want to pull up the driver table that is in your Setup Tables tab. So you actually have two ways to get to your driver table, the Setup Tables tab and then again from the driver tab. And then of course you can use the driver table as you would normally from the Setup Tables tab. Now let's talk about the driver expiration dates and the driver events. This is an elite feature, and it does allow you to track information about your drivers, their expiration dates, and any events if you would like to set this up. So for example, DOT exams, health cards, driver's license, CDLs, those kind of things that have expiration dates you can track, and you can be notified if an expiration date is coming up, as well as the driver will be notified. Driver events is to track accidents, disciplinary actions, other kinds of events in the driver's career. So let's talk a little bit about how we can work with those. The first thing, if you would like to start tracking your driver's expiration and events, is that you need to set them up. So in order to set up the different categories and subcategories of the expirations and events, go to your Setup Tables tab and scroll down to the driver section here and look for expiration categories. By default, we have set up some for you, but you can add or remove these categories if you would like to. The categories that are coming by default, you can see when you click on the expiration option. So certification, license, and training are some examples. If you wanted to add a new driver expiration category, you could. So for example, maybe you wanted to add a medical category. So you can put in medical here and submit. And so then that medical becomes a category that you can select when you're of an expiration that you're tracking. Then the subcategories are the details of those different categories. And so again, we've set up some for you. So for example, under your license category, there's the CDL. Under training, there's CPR training. Certifications, there's a DOT medical card. These are just some examples. If you wanted to just use these, you could. Now we're going to create a subcategory for our category medical. So go to your list here and pick the expiration subcategories, and we're going to create a new expiration subcategory. So you do need to pick the category and then add in whatever the subcategory is that you're tracking the expiration date of, maybe physical, and submit that. So then we've added that subcategory. If you didn't want to use some of these, you can easily remove either the category or the subcategory. If there's a little trash can beside it, you simply click the trash can, or if it is being used, you won't have the trash can, you can click your edit button and make it inactive. So either of the categories or the subcategories, you can do that same thing too. Now the events categories, we would again, we've put in maybe just some by default, but you can always create a new event category if you'd like to, something that they have completed, maybe a training or something like that, or just and this is just tracking a date. So if you wanted to again create something new here, you could do that as well. Maybe a safety course or something like that. They've completed that, so we can add that in. Now, in order to use these in the drivers table, you're going to work from the driver tab. So let's go to the driver tab here, and in your driver information options, driver expiration dates, click on that, and this is how you're going to set up the dates. When we click on the expiration dates, it brings us to a view of all the expiration dates that we have already set up with our drivers. So notice the information that you can see here, which subcategory it is, the CDL license, and then notice the expiration dates are here, and if they are passed, they are listed in red. So that gives you a nice quick snapshot of the information and the different expirations that are being tracked. You can filter and look only for certain criteria, certain drivers if you would like to. But in order to create an expiration date for a driver, you will need to pick that driver from the list. And then if you're using base locations, you would select that and then just click on to create a new expiration date. So maybe this is a new driver and we need to give Leonard their tracking information. So as far as their licenses, when does their CDL expire? You can fill that in. If there's a reference number, you can include that and then pick the expiration date. And let's say that Leonard's CDL is going to be expiring on March 31st of next year. If you needed to make comments, you could do that, and then you just simply click the submit button. And so now we're tracking Leonard's CDL license expiration. Now let's just go back to our drop down and choose all. And then if we had another driver that we needed to create an expiration for, we would simply repeat that process, picking a driver's name, creating a new expiration date. Notice that we can see ones that have already been set up for them. So maybe we'll go ahead and do the medical one we just added, and the subcategory was a physical. And so when did they get their physical? When does it expire? And we can set that up as well, maybe for next June, maybe June the 1st is when this driver needs to have another physical. You do have a way to view they hold that license or that certification, yes or no. If we hover over the little informational eye here, it just means that you currently hold that certificate or license, so either a yes or a no there. If you were working with a certificate and not an expiration, you could give the certification date. You can use both of these dates. If they were certified on one date and it's expiring another date, you can set up both of those. There is a comments box also if you needed to make some comments here. And then we would just again simply submit that. And we can see now this driver, actually we're tracking 2 pieces of information for this particular driver. So that's how you set up your expiration dates for your drivers. The events are set up very similar way. Click on your driver events. And again, you can see a list of the drivers. If it's been an accident or there's been some sort of disciplinary action, there's a description here in the summary view. Follow-up dates are here. If there was any points on their license, whether or not they were at fault. So you can see that information. If you need to pull up this information to view it or review it, you would just simply click on the category and it would pull up that particular event for you. And if you needed to make any additional information, here we've got a follow-up comment. You could add that in to this particular event. In order to create a new event, works the same way. You can choose the driver's name, create a new event. Maybe this was the safety course that he completed. When did the event happen? And then you can add in a description of the event. Make some comments. If there was any follow-up, you could do that. There is an at fault checkbox, so if this is like an accident or a ticket or something like that, you could indicate whether the driver was at fault or not, and then of course indicate if there were any points, and then just submit that. And so you can see that information there is added on for that particular driver. So lots of good ways to use your driver tab as a transportation admin, and to be able to track a lot of good information about your drivers from the driver tab. So I hope this was helpful.